When Sergeant Alex Thompson returned from his final deployment, the world greeted him with thanks. "Thank you for your service. Welcome home. Proud of you." Alex would just nod, offer a polite smile, and say, "Thank you," but inside, he felt absolutely nothing. A profound, echoing silence. At 39, Alex had dedicated nearly 2 decades of his life to the U.S. Army. The uniform wasn't just clothing. It was his structure, his purpose, his very identity. Every single day had meaning. Every decision, no matter how small, mattered. And then, just like that, it was over. No amount of ceremony or handshakes could prepare him for the quiet that came after. Civilian life felt slow. It was disorganized, unclear. There was no chain of command to follow, no mission briefing to prepare for, and most importantly, no brotherhood that understood him without a single word of explanation. He'd wake up early, a habit etched into his very being, but there was nowhere to report. He'd keep his boots polished and clean, but there was nowhere to march. He maintained his discipline, a core part of who he was, but he had no idea where to apply it. And that uncertainty, that void, scared him more than combat ever had. At first, Alex told himself it was just a temporary phase. He'd figure it out. That's what everyone said veterans do. They transition, they adapt, they move on. But the months bled into one another, and nothing changed. He tried a string of office jobs, but the fluorescent lights and cubicle walls felt like a prison. He tried security work, thinking it might be similar, but it just felt empty. He even enrolled in some college classes, but he felt like an outsider, a relic from another world among students half his age. He wasn't lazy, he wasn't broken, he was simply unanchored, adrift in a sea of civilian ambiguity. The hardest part wasn't the finances, though that was a concern. The real struggle was the crushing loss of purpose. In the Army, Alex knew exactly why he woke up every morning. His role was defined, his impact clear. In civilian life, every day felt optional, almost meaningless. One night, sitting alone in his garage, his eyes landed on his uniform, hanging pristine in a garment bag. He hadn't touched it in over a year, but he couldn't bring himself to pack it away. Because packing it away felt like erasing the person he had been. He whispered into the silence, "I was somebody." That sentence hit him like a physical blow. In that moment of painful honesty, Alex realized something crucial. He didn't miss the uniform, he missed the mission. That realization changed everything. He stopped asking the question, "What job should I get?" and started asking a much more powerful one, "Where can my discipline still serve?" The next morning, Alex did something he hadn't done in years. He planned, not a career path, his purpose. He grabbed a notepad and wrote down everything the Army had taught him, the skills that were ingrained in his DNA: leadership under pressure, training teams, operating complex systems, mental resilience, unwavering accountability, and perhaps most importantly, consistency, even when motivation fails. Then he asked himself the next critical question: who needs this? The answer surprised him: civilians, young people growing up without structure, professionals feeling burned out and directionless, men and women who craved discipline but had no idea how to build it from scratch. Alex started small, incredibly small. He decided to wake up early, not just for himself, but to train others. He started offering free morning fitness and discipline sessions at a local park. There was no fancy branding, no social media campaign, no marketing budget. Just word of mouth. The first day, only 2 people showed up. But Alex didn't care. In the Army, you don't quit a mission because of low attendance. So he showed up the next day, and the day after that. Rain, cold, or blistering heat, Alex was there. And slowly, the group began to grow. First 10 people, then 20. People initially came for the fitness, but they stayed for the structure. Alex wasn't just training their bodies. He was training their habits. Show up on time. Finish what you start. Respect yourself enough to keep the promises you make to yourself. People noticed something different about his leadership style. He didn't yell or bark orders. He didn't brag about his past. He led quietly, by example. His consistency was his authority. One day, after a tough session, someone asked him, "Why do you do this for free?" Alex answered simply and honestly, "Because discipline saved my life. I think it can save others too." That single sentence spread faster and further than any advertisement ever could. Soon, invitations started coming in. First, a local high school asked him to speak to their students, then a community center, then a small business owner, impressed by the change he saw in one of his employees, asked if Alex could train his team. For the first time since taking off the uniform, Alex felt genuinely needed again. But this time, it was different. There was no rank on his chest, no uniform on his back, and no orders from above. There was just impact, direct and personal. The journey wasn't easy. He struggled financially at first. Some months were incredibly tight, and that old fear would creep back in. Doubt would whisper in his ear, "This isn't stable. Go get a real job." But Alex held onto a lesson the Army had taught him. Comfort is not the same as security. True security comes from purpose. At 42, Alex officially registered his company. It was a leadership and discipline training program for civilians and businesses. He wasn't chasing money or status. He was building meaning, one person at a time. The business grew, not with explosive speed, but steadily, built on a foundation of trust and results. He began to hire other veterans, not just because they were veterans, but because they understood the mission. They understood responsibility, teamwork, and the power of showing up for the person next to you. Years later, Alex stood in front of a conference room filled with people. Men, women, young professionals, all of them listening intently as he spoke about discipline, resilience, and finding purpose. During the Q&A, someone asked, "Do you miss the Army?" Alex paused, considering the question. "I miss who I was there," he said, "but I respect who I've become here." The uniform still hangs in his garage. But now, it's not a reminder of a past he lost. It's a reminder of an important truth. Your past identity is not your final one. Alex Thompson didn't lose himself when the uniform came off. He expanded himself. And this is a truth that so many of us need to hear. You don't start over by forgetting who you were. You start over by using what you learned, the skills you've built, the resilience you've earned, the character you've forged that doesn't just disappear. Discipline never expires. Purpose can always be rebuilt. And your next mission, the one waiting for you right now, might just be bigger and more meaningful than your last. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content on building a life of purpose.